This is an application note for how to get started with the GeoSWAM instruments. There's a lot of information, and if you look in the comments below, you'll find a clickable index of topics. Starting with GeoShred 5, the GeoSWAM instruments, powered by SWAM technology, are available as in-app purchases, otherwise known as IAPs. Here are some brief examples of each of the GeoSWAM instruments. The GeoSWAM instruments can be performed from GeoShred's Isomorphic keyboard. KeyY Touch is supported for velocity and pressure. They can also be performed from MPE Controllers, like the LinnStrument, or the Roli Seaboard. The GeoSWAM instruments can be purchased as IAPs from the GeoShred store that is found under Menu Store. You can also reach the store by accessing a preset that contains a GeoSWAM instrument. The price of the IAP will be displayed in the currency of the territory where your Apple ID is registered. Note that the conversion of the price to different territories is not a straight currency conversion. In some territories, GST or other charges are added, and in some territories, Apple sets the price to track the US dollar. The GeoSWAM IAP Store is available for GeoShred Pro and GeoShred Play. GeoShred Control can also access the GeoSWAM IAP Store if it's upgraded to the functionality of GeoShred Pro, so that it has an audio engine. Tapping on the purchase button will initiate Apple's standard IAP purchase flow. Once the e-commerce is complete, assets will be downloaded, which you can track in the Download Info window. Note that there's a collection of all 6 instruments for the price of 5. Unfortunately, due to App Store limitations, previously purchased instrument IAPs cannot be applied to a purchase of the collection. Note that if you install GeoShred on a new device with the same Apple ID, you can use the Restore Purchases button to restore your purchases. The GeoSWAM instruments are organized into set lists, which are lists of presets. The set list selector is here, and for each set list, the presets are here. Here's the GeoViolin set list. There are 10 factory presets for each GeoSWAM instrument. You can directly select a preset, or you can flip through the list of presets. If you own GeoShred Pro, or if you have GeoShred Play or Control upgraded to the functionality of Pro, you can edit your own presets. GeoShred has 22 built-in effects boxes, as well as a rich control mechanism that can be used when creating presets. If you decide to edit one of your presets, you will want to look at chapters 2 and 5 of our Video User's Manual, which can be found under Menu Help. Chapter 2 covers the preset editor and how to create presets. Chapter 5 covers the control surface editor which is where you'll set up control and also MIDI mappings. Note that when editing presets, you can use the question mark help system to see what the parameters are that are available to the GeoSWAM instrument. Here you can see a list of model parameters that can be mapped to the control surface and even MIDI. It's important to note that the GeoSWAM parameter expression is special and can only be mapped to MPE expression. You can also see the parameters that are available for other effects. On an iPad, velocity is expressed with KeyY Touch. Under Settings, KeyY Touch Velocity, you can edit the curve for KeyY Velocity. On a phone with 3D Touch, velocity is expressed using 3D Touch. Under Settings, 3D Touch Velocity, you can edit the curve for 3D Touch Velocity. The GeoSWAM instruments have a primary expression control called Expression. There are two different metaphors that can be used to express the GeoSWAM instruments: pad expression and finger expression, each with its own expressive benefits. With pad expression, the expressive control is continuous across the notes that are being played. It's excellent for legato passages. In contrast, with finger expression, each note that is played has its own expression. On an iPad, finger expression is done with KeyY motion. On an iPhone with 3D Touch, finger expression is done with 3D touch pressure. All the GeoSWAM presets have a switch to toggle between pad and finger expression. Here are some special notes about the built-in GeoSWAM presets. Keys that are out of the range of the instrument are dimmed out. There is a low-velocity Portamento mechanism, which is used for automatic sliding between notes. The woodwinds have additional expression, growl and flutter, which if switched on will engage in the last part of the expressive gesture. The lookup table for growl or flutter can be accessed under Menu, Control Surface, Poly Expression. The flute has a switch for overblow. GeoShred is also an AUv3 plugin, and it can be hosted by hosts like GarageBand, Cubase, or AUM. The GeoShred AUv3 plugin can be used to record the GeoSWAM instruments to a DAW using either the GeoShred keyboard or an MPE controller. The GeoSWAM instruments can be controlled from a compliant MPE controller. Note that some controllers claim MPE, but in order to be compliant they need to send, on a per-note basis, key X, which is pitch wheel, key Y, which is continuous controller 74, and key Z, which is channel pressure, also known as channel aftertouch. Note that an MPE controller using key X, key Y, and key Z is equivalent to finger expression mode on the GeoShred keyboard. In most cases, the standard MPE MIDI configuration will be sufficient to interface an MPE controller with GeoShred. There's also a Seaboard GeoSWAM MIDI configuration and a LinnStrument MIDI configuration.